How's everybody doing? Today's video is going to be another new gear video. I have not had a whole lot of time in between to actually get to doing reviews and more in-depth things. Unfortunately, it's been pretty busy here lately. But I should have a little bit more time going forward. And also, I just picked up this new guitar yesterday, and it is the weekend before Halloween. So that's not really why I got this guitar, but I figured it was fitting for a Gibson Les Paul Raven. So what this guitar is a Gibson Les Paul Special, meaning it is a flat top. Actually, it doesn't have a separate top like most Les Pauls have. It's just a flat piece of mahogany. So it is not arched like a normal Les Paul, it's just flat. It doesn't have the maple top, but they do give this model a maple neck. And what's interesting about the Raven, it's like a special edition or the Raven trim of a Les Paul Special, is that you have a Richlight fretboard, which is controversial, but on a lower end Les Paul, it's not that controversial. They used to put these on customs when there was a shortage of ebony or they couldn't get it due to legal reasons. And so it must be pretty sufficient. I have played a couple times. My old guitar teacher had a Parker Fly that was really nice that also had a Richlight fretboard, or if it wasn't exactly Richlight, it was some sort of synthetic wood-based fretboard like Richlight, and I always thought it felt pretty good to play. So I'm not really a Richlight hater. In fact, I've never owned one, so I wanted to try it out with this guitar. In addition, the Raven obviously has this monochromatic black look, which I think is really cool. It does actually have dot inlays, but they are black pearl inlays, so it's kind of hard to see them, but I don't really like inlays, so fine with me. It reminds me a little bit of the old Gibson Les Paul Gothics that they used to do like around 2000. Unfortunately, I kind of missed the boat as far as buying one of those because the prices recently have doubled on those. So I'm not really gonna, I don't want to buy a Gothic Les Paul Studio for $2,000 in good condition, but this thing's half the price. It's brand new, it's a special. You miss out on the maple top, but it's very reminiscent of that model. Obviously it has all black hardware, and the other thing that you get is it comes with the Gibson 496R and 500T pickups, which are hot ceramics. When it comes to Gibson pickups, I'm a big fan of the guitars that come with the hot Alnico set, which is like the 490R, 498T, I want to say. Those are the ones that come with the Les Paul Studio and come with the Les Paul Custom, and I get those guitars with those. I have them and I keep them stock, and those are probably my favorite at the moment because you do have a little bit more warmth with the Alnicos. However, the 490 and 496R 500T set hot ceramics that come in this, I am not a stranger to because I put those in two of my previous Les Paul Studios that I've owned a couple of years ago as an upgrade. These are the same pickups that you would find in a lot of the more metal-focused Gibsons, as well as in the Buckethead Signature. So it kind of reminds me of when they used to do the Buckethead Signature Les Paul with the Richlight fretboard and with the 496 500 pickups. So that's another thing that I think is cool about this model. And what you get with the hot ceramics that you don't get with the Alnicos is you trade away a little bit of that Alnico tonal warmth for more of a cool sounding gain tone, but there's a little bit more dynamics when you do want to roll the pickups back. I find that the hot ceramics actually respond a little bit more clearly to lighter picking attacks and gives you a little bit more clarity compared to the Alnicos, at the expense of some warmth, but it's not terrible. So it's just, if I could say my two favorite pickup sets, it would be the 490 and 498 and the 496 and 500T. So depending on what you need it for, it's nice to have a guitar that has these as stock, so I don't have to change them to anything. And it makes sense in a guitar that looks like this. It looks kind of like metal focused and sinister and kind of dark looking for the fact that it's about to be Halloween, actually, just to give myself a little bit more variety. So you can see that they give you a white silk screen, which stands out on the headstock. On the back is just the standard pressed serial number. And the finish is actually kind of transparent, although it's not super transparent. You can see the wood grain on the neck and through the back of this guitar. So if it's in the right light, you can see the wood grain on the mahogany and you can see the wood grain of the maple. So it's kind of a light finish. It's a satin finish, but it does feel kind of like slick in a way. So it's like kind of not really a satin finish where you feel like there's a lot of air getting it in between. Like, it doesn't feel like one of those polyester satin finishes that you get on like a Schecter. This feels like kind of greasier, a little bit slicker, but it is still not a full gloss finish. And I will say a couple things that surprised me about this guitar when I actually got it in my hands, because I've been looking at this model for a while, but I never really got around to trying one out, is even though it doesn't have a maple top, and I was expecting this guitar to be a little bit lightweight, it's pretty sturdy. At least this particular one is definitely not what I would call light. It's probably what I'd call like average for Les Paul, meaning it's probably heavier than a Strat, but not as heavy as another Les Paul. I guess because you don't have the maple top, which is heavy, but you also don't have weight relief, so I guess those features might balance each other out. And you also have a maple neck, which tends to be a little bit heavier because a maple neck tends to be a little bit more dense than a mahogany neck. I'm not really too sure about the weight effect that Richlite would have, but I would say it's just a solid feeling guitar. It does not feel very light, like how I used to have one of those B2 Flying V's, and that guitar felt extremely lightweight, and I was almost expecting this guitar to feel similar to that, but this is way heavier than a Flying V B2, at least the one that I used to have. So it feels more like a proper Les Paul chunkiness, and the neck is actually pretty chunky as far as the neck shape and how thick it is front to back. It's pretty significant, and it has kind of a wide shoulder. And I like that a lot because it means you have a lot of neck in your hand, and I was not expecting it to be that way on being a special base model. I was thinking it was going to be, maybe a little bit more entry-level friendly, which typically means like a slim taper. I don't think I would call this a slim taper. It's a little bit bigger. Even though it has a satin finish, it still feels like a little bit thicker than, maybe even a little bit thicker than my studio neck, which is a slim taper, but it has the full gloss finish. So if that gives you some idea, it's a pretty good heft to the neck on this thing, which was a very pleasant surprise. I have to say I'm really happy with how this guitar feels fit and finish wise. You can see the wood grain a little bit through the finish, but it's not like super visible. And it feels a little bit slicker, and it just feels better than I thought it would feel. So that's a plus. So as I'm doing all this talking, I have yet to actually play this guitar. I brought it home pretty late last night. It was a floor model at Guitar Center, so I had to change the strings. I had to not oil the fretboard because it's Richlite, but I did give it a really good cleaning and going over with some finger ease, which I use on the strings, so that's got to be safe for the fretboard as well. And sort of clean it up to where it's like perfectly back in new shape, except for with a finish like this, there is a little bit of play wear even from the people that were demoing this guitar in the store, so I guess that's one negative if you want to look at it that way, because these really thin finishes are not super durable, but it's nothing too terrible. So I'm going to play this guitar now for the first time right here. I'm running it through my new 5150 Iconic head, attenuated way down because I'm in the apartment, so. sloppy playing because I played a lot yesterday and my fingers are still really soft, I have to say that it feels pretty good to play. I don't have any complaints right off the bat with the Rich Light fretboard. It definitely has its own feel. You can tell that it's different from ebony, but I don't know if that makes it bad. It's just different. Anyway, that's my new gear day, just in time for Halloween, the Gibson Les Paul Raven. So if you like this video, don't forget to share it and subscribe. Turn on notifications to all, and I will see you guys next time.